Good evening, Merry Christmas. If you're visiting, welcome to St. Clair of Assisi Catholic Church. It's a joy to have you here with us as we celebrate Christmas, and it's very cold outside. Would you believe that we have the air conditioner on inside the church right now? Every single body produces... Are you cold? How are you cold? Every body produces 50 BTUs of heat. And there's like 1,500 people in here. Well, throughout the whole building at least. Anyway, so there's different options for the Gospels at Christmas, and the genealogy. Why would anybody pick the genealogy other than just torture poor Deacon Stephen, make him say all those names? Because the genealogy is really, really important. Everybody's got that one relative that is really into their genealogy and has done all this research and has figured out all this weird stuff, and I'm related to whoever. I'm related to St. Stanislaus, who was a bishop in Poland way back when. Who knew? Okay. But the genealogy is really important because it shows us where Jesus came from, right? In order to say, okay, Jesus is here. Jesus has come to the earth. He's taken on our flesh. He's become man. Where did he come from, right? Who was first? So God creates Adam and Eve, and then from there, we got all these people. And so today we celebrate with joy Christ's entrance into the world. Now, what does that mean for us? Well, it means that we dress up, we put on a coat and tie. For some of us, it's the only time throughout the year that we do that. And we get together, and then we have dinner, and then we open presents, right? That's what Christmas is all about, right? No, of course not. You didn't come to church to hear that. I have a confession to make, and that is that I haven't really done any of my Christmas shopping. I bought my mom this scarf in France, and I bought my dad a case of Chateauneuf de Pape that is still stuck in the mail. I don't know what I'm going to get my siblings. I went to buy more cat food for my cats yesterday, and they're like, oh, look, here's all the kitty cat Christmas things. So I got my cats Christmas presents, but I haven't gotten my siblings or my nieces or my nephew Christmas presents yet. I assume they're going to be getting an Amazon gift card printed out on a piece of paper. But in reality, Christmas, as we know, that's why we're here in church, is about Christ becoming man. Christmas is about Christ taking on our human flesh and coming to the world to save us from our sins, to save us from darkness. Now, why would God, who created the heavens and the earth, right, who made the universe, who made all of us, why would he choose to come into the world in such a lowly way, to be born in a manger? Do you think it smelled good in there? I don't think it smelled good in there. There's a donkey right there. Donkeys don't smell good. They usually have flies all around them. To be born in that setting, many of you would probably think, like, that's horrible. We couldn't possibly have this as a setting for a labor and delivery room for a baby. It's unsanitary. But Jesus chooses to come into the world in this lowly way, right? He doesn't come crashing down out of heaven in a chariot, throwing lightning bolts at people. Instead, he's born as a baby. He's born as a humble, simple baby. And it's these weird circumstances too, right? The Gospel for the Midnight Mass says, in those days, the decree went out from Caesar Augustus that the whole world should be enrolled. So everybody had to go to their ancestral homeland. Nobody cared that Mary was 8 months and 3 weeks pregnant. Like, you got to go to your ancestral homeland, which is Bethlehem. And we know that because Jesus is a descendant of David, as we heard, right? So you got to go to your ancestral homeland. For me, that would mean that I have to go to Superior, Wisconsin. I don't know about you, but right now in Superior, Wisconsin, I assume it's probably just a big block of ice. That probably nobody's even alive anymore there. But the government says, you got to do it, you got to do it. And everybody goes, right? So here's Mary. She's pregnant with Jesus. The angel appeared to her. It's like, hey, guess what? Lucky you. You're going to be the mother of God. And they travel to Bethlehem, and they have this baby. And the baby's wrapped in swaddling clothes, right, and laid in a manger. No crying he made, right, as the song tells us. Babies are so, helpless, right? What do? They cry, then you feed them, and they poop, and then they go to bed. And then a couple hours later, they wake up and you do it all over again. And meanwhile, everybody's probably really confused. Mary, she knows more so what's going on, right? Because she's without sin, and the angel appeared to her. Joseph had the angel appear to him in a dream. And so Joseph's like, all right, I'm being faithful. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. But I'm sure he's nervous. I'm sure he's worried, right? And for us, Christmas comes along, and we're like, okay, we got to do all this stuff again. I got to get all these decorations, and all these people are going to come into my house, and I got to feed them. We worry about things, right? And we try to control things ourselves, right? At the scene of Jesus' birth, the shepherds came in. Shepherds are a strange choice for the first people to see Jesus Christ. They work like 24/7 because they have to take care of their sheep, so they can't keep up with the prescripts of the law, so they're considered bad Jews. They smell, right? They're dirty. And they're the first ones that come and see Jesus. They're the first ones that Jesus reveals himself to. And then who are the second? It's these kings, these weird, strange pagans from the east. The Magi, like wizards probably. And they bring these gifts. We'll talk about that in 2 weeks at the Epiphany. So Jesus reveals himself to these kind of like unfaithful people and to these pagans. These are the first ones. And then the angels appear in the sky, and it says the whole heavenly host. In Roman military, a host is a lot of soldiers. And like the scary soldiers, the ones with the big shields, it's a lot of angels. And here we are, and we're looking, and everybody's wondering, what is going on? And the only one who really truly knows, and the one that's actually in charge, and the one that can control everything, is the little baby in the trough. Right? I said, babies are so helpless. Oh, look, a baby. Hi, baby. Which baby are you? Can you tell me your name? Come on, speak. No? Okay, all right. No. Here we go. Oh, just a little baby. Which phase of life is she in? Has she already eaten and pooped, I hope? So she's just going to fall asleep here? Good. Who's that? That's Mommy. She can't do anything without her mom, right? She's got to have her mom. She's got to have somebody to take care of her, somebody to feed her, somebody to do all the stuff. I know, she's so cute. But imagine in a world of so much darkness and sin and doubt and fear and confusion, putting all of your trust in something like this. That's what Jesus is asking us to do. That's what Jesus asks them to do in the manger. That's enough. There you go. There you go. She's lighter than Lucy was, by the way. I think she's also younger than Lucy was last year. So, but to be able to put our trust in a baby, the baby Jesus is in control. God appears to us in this weak, simple way, right? And that's the first image that we have of him. And then the last image that we have of him is the crucifixion. It doesn't seem like a strong God. That doesn't seem like a powerful God, right? I just finished playing this video game, Assassin's Creed Odyssey. You're Vikings. You go and you pillage monasteries. I don't know if it was the best thing for me to play, but as you're sailing into England on your little Viking boat, the Viking guy's like, man, these Christians believe in a dumb God that would crucify himself. And from the world, yeah, it makes sense. Right? What power is there in death? What power is there in a baby? But Jesus shows us through his life. He shows us sacrifice. He shows us suffering. We live in a world that doesn't want to suffer, right? We go through all sorts of lengths to avoid suffering, right? I mean, sometimes ridiculous lengths to avoid suffering. To avoid little things. I hate emptying the dishwasher. To me, that's the worst thing in the world to do. It's the utmost suffering. And if there's any way I can get away from that, I'll do it. Right? And then we think about sickness, right? We think about dying and we're like, okay, now that's the ultimate suffering, and the dishwasher doesn't compare at all. We think of suffering in a real sense, whereby my body is hurting. We try to avoid it. And no matter how hard we try, we don't avoid it, do we? We suffer. And so Christ gives us this opportunity to embrace suffering. To embrace suffering. We live in a world, like I said, that's full of sadness and distress and all sorts of, just turn the TV on. Doesn't matter which news channel, just they're all the same. And it's like, oh, man. Right? Like the weathermen for the last week have been telling us that we're going to die, right? Because it's 10 degrees outside and it feels like 0 degrees. It's like, why do we have to be scared? It's cold, okay? Put on a coat. Stay inside. And so we want to avoid that suffering, right? Even the suffering of the cold, we want to avoid that. Go buy the milk, go buy the toilet paper, wrap your pipes so they don't burst, whatever else. But like, what if they did? Would that be the end of the world? No, it wouldn't. Right? We're going to get hurt. We're going to be sad. We're going to be upset. But through all that, we have reason to be joyful. Through all that, we have opportunity to rejoice. Because Jesus has become man. He took on our humanity. He took on our humanity to fix what we couldn't fix. To repair the relationship with our Father in heaven that we couldn't do. He came to give us hope. He came to give us new life. He came to give us an option. We have to follow him. Right? And he's not always the little baby. Right? Sometimes he tells us stuff and we're like, I don't like that. I don't want to do that. Right? He founded this church, the Catholic Church. He entrusted it to St. Peter and the apostles, and through the successors of the apostles, he put the Holy Spirit over the church. And the church teaches things, and sometimes we're like, I don't like what the church says. I'll come on Christmas, but I don't like what the church says the rest of the year. But it's an opportunity for us to recognize the need that each and every one of us have to put our hope and our faith in God. To put our hope and our faith in Jesus Christ. To put our hope and our faith in the little baby. The little baby that has all the power. The little baby that has all the answers insofar as the little baby could know it. But to put our trust in something that appears helpless, that appears hopeless. To put our trust in that. I try to fix problems in my life all the time, and I generally make them worse. You know what I'm talking about. You probably do the same thing. It's like, I'm going to fix this by doing something else that I probably shouldn't do, and people get hurt, right? It makes things difficult. If I would just admit to myself that I don't have all the answers, if I would just admit to myself that I need to better trust in God, if I would just admit to myself that I need to submit myself to Him, I need to submit myself to the authority of His church that He founded. I need to listen. I need to recognize that He has the answers to suffering. He's not going to end the suffering, not now, but in heaven He will. In heaven there will be no suffering. But in order to attain that, we have to first embrace the cross. And so it's Christmas. It's this time for us to come together to rejoice in the incarnation, right? Incarnate. Meaning Jesus took on human flesh. He became man. He looked like us. Actually, he probably didn't look like us. He's from the Middle East. If we saw Jesus today, we might be like, But to recognize that He came to walk among us so that we could be with Him. He came to be with us so we could be with Him. If we want to boil Christmas down to one sentence, that's it. He came to be with us so that we could be with Him. And so throughout our life, we have to take these opportunities to deepen our relationship with Him, to be with Him in a more intimate way, to know Him, to love Him, to serve Him. to be happy with him in this life and the next, recognizing that he calls each and every one of us by name. He came and suffered so that our suffering means something. He came and died so that our death will mean something. And he leads us to heaven. Now, today's Christmas. Tomorrow's Christmas. Today's Christmas Eve. Up until like 2 hours ago, I wasn't saying Merry Christmas to anybody. And I was the Advent Grinch, and I was like, don't say Merry Christmas to me, it's not Christmas yet. Say Happy Advent. And I can't wait to go out into the world tomorrow and the next day and the days after and be wishing people Merry Christmas, because Christmas is a whole season, right? It's so important we celebrate the birth of Jesus for 12 days, right? We've got the baptism, we've got the Epiphany. Let's really live Christmas in a celebratory way. After tomorrow's over, don't just start packing stuff up, putting trees away, and just, okay, back to my regular life. I got a week off before I got to go back to work or before I got to go back to school. But actually live Christmas. Live in a way that we recognize that God is with us and he wants us to be with him. And so it's my prayer for each and every one of you that on this Christmas, you may indeed be able to grow more in the knowledge and love of God, that you may recognize more that he loves you, that he desires for you to follow him, that he desires for you to take up your cross daily and follow him, but ultimately that he prepares the way for us so that we may spend eternity with him in heaven.